If you're feeling overwhelmed by the number of meetings in your calendar and looking for solutions to better manage your time and schedule, I have 10 simple Outlook calendar tips that you can use right after having watched this video, and that will help you to better manage your precious time and save it for the more important things in life. Tip number 1 is to reply to an email directly with a calendar invite. Assume you receive an email that requires you to set up a meeting to discuss the topic with the person in the address field and potentially those in CC. Usually you would be opening the calendar and create a new invite, insert the recipients, the topic, and send the meeting. Instead, you could just press Ctrl-Alt-R or press the button to reply with a meeting. In that case, a new meeting window opens up with the title being the subject of the initial email you received, the recipients of the initial email being required, and the people in CC put as optional in the meeting. The meeting invite also includes the entire body of the email conversation, such that you have the complete context at hand. You just need to add location and timing and it's ready to be sent. The next tip has already saved me hours in the past. Maybe you know that struggle when you have certain window prompts open in Outlook, such as the window to schedule reminders. You cannot click anywhere else in Outlook and look, for example, for a certain date of the week in parallel in your calendar. So you always need to close the window prompt, go to the calendar, and then go back to schedule the reminder. But there is a simple solution to this problem, and maybe also the struggle of not having an overview of your calendar and meetings open at any point in time. Just do a right click on the calendar icon in Outlook and let it open in a new window. Now you can have your calendar always open, write emails, and check for meetings in parallel. Maybe you want to keep your calendar open in a smaller window in a corner of your desktop so you have your schedule always at hand. Now let's assume you need to schedule a meeting series, but with varying timings. As you know, it's quite easy to do so if you want to schedule, for example, bi-weekly meetings at 9 a.m. on Thursdays for 5 months in a row. But it's more complex if you want to schedule several meetings across the weeks at different points in time. So far, maybe you have created a new calendar invite for each session and typed in the title, recipients, and information manually, which is very time consuming. The easier way is to just copy and paste the meeting from one day to the other. Duplicate meeting will look exactly like the original one with the same title, recipients, and duration. So you just need to change maybe the duration or anything else and click send, such as the others will also receive the invitation. Even if you have to copy and paste several invites, this is much faster than having set up a new invite with the same information every single time. What you can also do to shorten the time it takes for such tedious administrative tasks such as meeting scheduling is the following. Instead of setting up a new invite based on an email that you have just received, just take the email and drag and drop it to the calendar. If you do not have a separate calendar window open, you can just drop it to the calendar icon at the bottom left of Outlook. Then a new meeting window will open with the subject as the title and the content of the email included in the body of the invite. So you just need to add attendees and change time and location. The same happens if you drag the email to the calendar that is open in a separate window. But in any case, this tip will save you several individual steps, which translates into seconds, minutes, and eventually hours over time. Another challenge I personally have is working across different time zones. I guess some of you have the same issue where clients, colleagues, or business partners are located across the globe, which needs to be considered when scheduling meetings. If you set up an early morning meeting for the US and Canada, this might already be quite late for an Indian colleague or vice versa. So instead of always Googling the time at the other location, you can just add up to 2 time zones in your Outlook calendar. Just go to File, Options, Calendar, and scroll down to Time Zone. Alternatively, just do a right click in the time column of your calendar and select Change Time Zone. There you have the option to label or change your first time zone and add a second or third one. Mine would be CET, and usually I have added EST for some of my American and Canadian clients, and the time in Singapore since I'm working with a lot of colleagues there. The additional time zones will appear on the left in your calendar, so you have an overview of all 3 time zones at one glance. As you might know, it can be quite challenging and time-consuming to schedule meetings across different parties, because naturally, everyone has their own schedule and plans. So I show you 2 simple tricks to save time scheduling meetings, at least within your organization amongst colleagues. The first one is to view multiple calendars next to each other such that it looks like this. If you're working in a big organization, you should see your teammates' names on the left pane in Outlook. By checking the box, their calendar should appear side by side with yours, so you can see if you have a common slot available. You can add up to 4 or 5 people, so their calendar will appear next to each other. But if you add another person, the view will change from vertical to horizontal. If you want to add another person that is not in your team and does not appear on the left side of Outlook, just go to Add from Address Book, and then you should be able to choose anyone from your organization. What you can see from the other's calendar depends on the permissions that this person has set. You might be able to just see if they're busy or not, or maybe even the title or the details of the meeting. The other tip to save time scheduling meetings with colleagues is to use the scheduling assistant. You can access it via the respective tab if you open a new appointment. There you have a similarly nice overview of your colleague's calendar, where you can see all the required or optional attendees' availability underneath each other. Instead of blindly choosing a slot that might fit everyone, you can deliberately choose one that fits into everyone's schedule. But in any case, you should be mindful of your calendar as well. It's great to know how to quickly set up meetings and complete such necessary but tedious tasks as quick as possible. But at the same time, you should also know how to protect your calendar such that others are not just randomly bombarding you with meetings and keeping you away from doing your actual daily business. One thing you can do is to set your office hours properly. Those are indicated in Outlook as being lightly shaded, whereas the hours you are out of the office are grayed out. This should let the other person know that they can only schedule meetings during your office hours, but not earlier or later. The default office hours in Outlook are from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. To change that, go to File, Options, Calendar, and Work Time at the very top. There you can change your work hours and work week. For example, if you set your work time from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., only this window will be indicated as free, whereas the remaining hours are grayed out in Outlook. Another tip to better manage your time is to block it. In fact, it's super simple but very effective. You can block your calendar such that others know if you're out of the office or maybe just busy with something else. Do that by choosing the right category in Outlook so your colleagues know if you're free, busy, or not working that day. I usually block time in my calendar to work on projects, proposals, or anything else. But instead of leaving my calendar blank and working on those topics anyway, I put work blockers in my calendar so others will not schedule meetings during those times or disturb me via Teams. Because you should know that the status in Teams is linked to your meeting status in Outlook. If you're busy or in a meeting, your status in Teams will be red. But when you're free or just tentative in Outlook, your status in Teams will be green. And finally, a tip I always assume everyone knows and uses. But if you look at others' calendars, I'm afraid very few use this method to be more efficient and time conscious. It's as simple as color coding your meetings, which literally does not take additional time, but will help you to get what's going on in your day and week in just a glimpse. You can change the colors and category labels by clicking on the 4 colored squares on the Home tab in Outlook. If you click on All Categories, you can rename them, add or delete them, or change their color. I recommend using different categories for internal or external meetings, maybe personal working blocks or private meetings. Now, once a calendar invite arrives or when you set up an appointment, you can choose the respective category and your calendar will end up looking like this. So you know at one glance if you have just internal, important external, or just a few personal meetings that day or the week. Now, if you want to know more productivity tips for Outlook, you should watch this video next.